According to what this program has learned, it's been several weeks since Leire Díez, the fixer, the dirty tricks operative of the PSOE, and Pedro Sanchez has been negotiating with the Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office to reduce her possible sentences now that she has been charged and to avoid jail time.
Surprisingly, this measure by the government gives the Postal Service 3 more months to assist immigrants who have not submitted their documents. And this is a blatant circumvention of the law, Albert.
It really bothers me, and I have to say it, to see how Venezuelans are being used by American Democrats to throw stones at Trump. I'm not defending Trump because there are many things I could criticize, but the only person who can help us right now to get rid of those criminals is Trump.
You can see that there are some signs at the entrance that say prohibited, danger due to high temperatures. That's just to start with, but it was just a few days ago. The equivalent of the CSIC in Italy has released a study showing that the temperature under the panels in the field, because all that land has been settled and compacted, rises by up to 17 degrees.
I often hear people say, I'm a citizen of the world. Whenever I hear that, I think I'm Spanish. I'm not a citizen of the world, I'm a Spanish citizen. What do I mean by this? Well, I try to put into practice what my parents and grandparents taught me. Who do you help? Your children, your relatives, your friends, your neighbors, the first ones you have to help. That's the concept. The concept of national priority that I defend and that I believe is completely respectable.
Castillon Confidencial by Albert Castillon. Welcome, how are you? Thank you for staying with us, even though it's already July with very cold weather in some Latin American countries and very hot weather in European countries. Thank you for spreading the word about this platform for freedom in every corner of the world. A big hug. Look, things are going well, and that means that despite the setbacks, the attacks, the threats, it doesn't matter, it's worth it. Will the final result be what we expected, to kick the corrupt out of Spain? We are getting closer and closer, and the exclusive news we bring you today makes us very happy to be able to share it with you. Also, we are sure that the source is reliable, so it's impressive to know how things are going to change in the coming weeks, maybe even days. Look, Victor de Aldama spent a month in prison, and from the very first day he entered jail, he asked to make a deal with the prosecutor's office. And he did it and reached agreements. Prosecutor Alejandro Luzon, the anti-corruption prosecutor, is not an easy person to deal with. He's not satisfied with just being told a few secrets or being given a couple of documents. When he makes a deal with a defendant to reduce their sentence in exchange for cooperating with the justice system, he demands the maximum possible. He has done this with Victor de Aldama and will continue to do so with the next ones he makes deals with. Everything seems to indicate that the next one will be Julio Martinez, Julito, the front man. Apparently, it's Zapatero on the 21st, which is when he has to testify. They already told us that Julio Martinez is psychologically affected. He suffers from depression, and his brothers, his family, those who love him are the ones who have advised him to do it. Going to prison would not be an option for him. He would be completely devastated. So even though the prosecutor is demanding, Julio Martinez is going to make a deal with the anti-corruption prosecutor's office in exchange for spilling the beans, for telling what he knows. Maybe that's why Rodriguez Zapatero is so worried. We're getting information that he doesn't leave his house, that he barely talks on the phone even with those close to him, and that he's also fallen into a deep depression. We don't know if it's been medically diagnosed like Julio Martinez's or not. They say Sanchez has ordered that Zapatero be watched to prevent him from doing something crazy. They're doing something like that with Julio Martinez too. They're much more devastated over the Zapatero case, especially since he found out through the objective that he was going to make a deal with the prosecutor's office and that they're negotiating. They're not the only ones. And this is today's news. Ladies and gentlemen, as this program has learned, it's been several weeks since Leire Díez, the plumber, the dirty operative of the PSOE, and Pedro Sanchez has been negotiating with the anti-corruption prosecutor's office to reduce her possible sentences now that she's been charged and to avoid jail time. That negotiation is being carried out in the strictest secrecy. This information has not been leaked to any media outlet until now. The source providing us with this information is absolutely reliable. And that same source tells us that Leire Díez is willing to tell everything, to tell the truth to Prosecutor Luzon in exchange for immunity, for not going to prison. In fact, our sources tell us a phrase that perhaps explains everything better. And I'll tell it to you just as it was told to me. And the phrase is this: what happened with Aldama is nothing compared to what Leire Díez is saying. Therefore, Leire Díez is still in negotiations with the prosecutor's office to cooperate with the authorities and avoid jail. She wouldn't avoid the trial, but she would get favorable conditions in that trial. And our source tells us something else. She acts on her own. Leire Díez trusts no one, much less in the PSOE, which has provided her with legal defense, even contacts with lawyers, and would pay for them in exchange for her silence. Just like the PSOE did with Coldo Garcia or Abalos, they would have also promised her positions in consulting firms and regime media in exchange for her silence. But she didn't want to listen to those proposals. Therefore, Leire Díez negotiates without strings attached. She doesn't follow in the footsteps of Coldo Garcia or Jose Luis Abalos. She goes her own way. Only her lawyers know her intentions, which are to reach an agreement with the prosecution and avoid going to prison by any means. She knows that's the next step after being charged with numerous crimes. Leire Díez is still hiding out in a very small town in Cantabria, Vega de Paz, a beautiful place with just over 700 inhabitants. Yes, she says she has a herd of goats and spends her time taking care of them, and that's true. She tries to find the peace there that she didn't have in the last 20 years working alongside the PSOE as a fixer. Leire Díez says, I just want to get my life back. It's funny that she says that after ruining so many people's lives, isn't it? Threats, bribery, blackmail, harassment, saying you have to shoot someone, you have to get rid of this one, of that one. Well, look, if in the end Leire Díez confesses her crimes, maybe all those years of dirty tricks will have been worth it, since that's when we found out who the real mobster is, who occupies the Monclo Palace. You just have to ask Leire to start by giving explanations for 3 entries in her planners. The first one is obvious. She met a bunch of times and wrote it down as PS. She should say if it's Pedro Sanchez, where and how she met him, because Sanchez keeps saying he doesn't know her and has never seen her, even though there are dozens of photos, as you can see, that prove otherwise. But anyway, Sanchez lying is not news. The second big explanation that Leire Díez should give is, what did she mean when she talked about containers of cocaine in her planners? Because this goes beyond politics. This takes on another dimension beyond the corruption that unfortunately we are used to. And the third note, this one you're going to see constant messages with Indra, with Correos. Even with Indra's involvement in the elections in Angola, which were in 2022, we've talked about it here. The opposition is certain that there was electoral fraud committed by the company. What does Leire Díez have to do with Indra, with the Postal Service, and with the elections in Angola? Well, the same thing it had to do with the ones in Spain on July 23, 2023, where there was also a problem. The main issue was collecting the votes of 2.5 million people who voted by mail. Gentlemen, this is the beginning of the end. As soon as Leire Díez starts talking, Sanchez should be worried. As soon as Julito Martinez does it, Zapatero should be worried. And everyone should be worried when Aldama continues presenting more evidence before Judge Cosa, which he will do in the next few hours. I'm telling you, we're winning the toughest battles, and we'll tell you about them here. Congratulations. Because it's thanks to the efforts of people like you, helping spread outlets like this one that stand for freedom. Welcome, we investigate.
Thank you.
Download Castillón Confidencial by Albert Castillón.
Gentlemen, the immigrant legalization process is not over. The deadline expired on June 30th, but Spain's Postal Service, and I'm sure by order of Moncloa, has told them to extend it for 3 more months. Gabriel Araujo, welcome. How are you?
What do you mean, Albert? Hello to all the confidenciales.
That is until the end of September.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the deadline to submit the documents and comply with the application really ended on June 30. But well, surprisingly, this provision by the government gives Correos 3 more months to assist immigrants who have not submitted their documentation. This is a clear case of legal fraud, Albert, because the application could only be submitted until June 30. He says, well, I'll just submit the documentation later. And this is absurd, isn't it? And we're also talking about a huge expense for Correos because we're talking about 383 offices all over Spain that will be providing that service morning and afternoon. So during July and August, they're going to have to staff up, reinforce the Correos workforce to be able to handle all those requests. And Correos is already bankrupt. So having to face this extra expense, right?
All so that as many people as possible can legalize their status or become naturalized. I want you to watch this video. A mother in Cuba is happy because she has never set foot in Spain in her life, but she's more Spanish than you and me. Watch.
Yes, my loves, I am legally, officially a Spanish citizen. This is my passport. I'm not going to show you the details, but look at it here. Well, I'll show you the photo. It doesn't look very good, but oh well. Look, that's me. I don't look very good in the photo, but oh well. It doesn't matter. The important thing is having that beautiful passport.
This woman could not only get to vote in Spain, but also get residency in Spain. How much did it cost you when you came from Uruguay?
Well, a lot. I remember that I had to, well, I was doing pretty well because I was already working, you know? But I had to get a visa exemption to do the paperwork, go back to Uruguay to request that visa exemption at the embassy, that stamp in the passport, along with a pre-employment contract in which the company really had to commit to hiring me. I had even advanced that hiring process, and only then was I able to return and apply for that residence permit. And well, over the years, I was able to get my citizenship, but I spent a fortune to, of course, get that.
I had to make trips between Uruguay and Spain. They don't do that, and they have residency.
This is the issue. It's a huge double standard because all of us who did it 100% legally had to spend that. I'm not complaining about that because I think it's a good screening process. That is, immigrants who really can and have that economic capacity will be able to contribute to Spanish society, right? But of course, this regularization process, which isn't the first one, there have been many more because it's grossly unfair to all of us who have done this process legally, right?
Well, I'm receiving messages every day from people who have been here for 20 or 30 years working, paying taxes, and they're not allowed to get citizenship, of course. There's a double standard.
They told me, I said, is there another aspect?
Tell me.
There's already another important aspect, which is that more than 1 million immigrants, as recognized by the police, who are going to enter this regularization process, we have to say that they have the right to family reunification. Yes, yes, yes. So this is going to be, as we've talked about many times on your show, that the unequal treatment is really significant. We're talking about a figure of 5 million, right?
The police tell us about that number you mentioned. In total, these will be 5 million people that will have to be taken care of here. But as usual, they don't care about that anymore. There's something else. There's a company with a branch in Spain. It's from the United States. It's called Neoris. Sanchez has hired them. They tell me that the first contract is for almost 2 million euros to speed up applications under the grandchildren law. And it's paid with EU funds. Do you know this company?
Yes, yes, it's a very well-known company. It has funds. It was also involved with Mexican funds. So why do we have to hire this company now? Because the same trick we just talked about with Correos, with the corrections, also happens with the naturalization cases. And even though the deadline ended in October 2025, people keep submitting documents, the deadline has already ended. And of course, to process all that huge amount of documentation, out of those millions of applications, well, you have to rely on the consular offices, on these kind of organizations. We've also seen that the company Ineco is involved, the one that hired Jessica, the Castro-affiliated company in Cuba. That is, there's no filter being applied here when it comes to seeing this. They're hiring whoever shows up there directly, just giving them the contract. And well, this is also very, very, very sensitive information, right?
All right. It was decided that through the grandchildren law, they would be naturalized. That deadline ended at the end of 2025, and they've been postponing it. Is there a final date for naturalization or not?
Well, of course, since there's a process for fixing deficiencies, the thing is that the application period ended. So anyone who didn't submit the application by October 25, 2025 really can't submit it now because it's closed. But of course, what people have done here is submit the little paper, meet the deadline, and then say, well, I'll look for the documentation and figure out how to fix this so I can submit everything. It's crazy. Yesterday, I posted on social media right when I saw Albert, the response a Spanish taxpayer would get when appealing a fine and asking the administration, hey, in 3 months, I'll provide the documentation for the appeal, right? It's crazy.
We'll fix it later if needed. Hey, in the end, we're talking about millions to change the electoral roll. Obviously, there are several lawsuits filed. Some requested precautionary measures. I think it's the Supreme Court that has to decide. Why is it taking so long? It seems obvious that this isn't legal. Why are they taking so long to stop it?
Well, I also think that civil society and political parties have reacted late. You and I, Albert, have been saying this for a long time, specifically for 3 years now. And of course, when you react poorly and late, well, this is what happens, right? It's already a done deal, right? So, well, the big problem is that when that citizen has the passport, the process is already irreversible. That is to say, we have to stop the applications now, just as I'm saying, because it's completely illegal to submit documents after the deadline has already expired. I mean, each case would have to be reviewed one by one. But I think this is a policy of fait accompli, unfortunately, right?
There are only a few days left until July ends. And if they don't do anything, if they don't stop it, in August the courts don't work, but the naturalization process does. The propaganda continues, right? They keep traveling.
Well, yes, we're seeing how they've reinforced things. Like I said, the Postal Service is going to reinforce all its staff to handle both the regularizations and the consulates since this is the high season. In August, there are no vacations in Latin America and so on. So that's going to keep going, right? They're going to keep hiring companies to process all that huge amount of paperwork. This, my friends, is a policy of fates accomplished that will have serious demographic consequences. For Spain, economic consequences because these are people who will have the right to those social benefits, and then demographic consequences because this replacement is really going to happen. It's going to take place with total impunity. that replacement that Irene Montero was so happy about. And honestly, as a foreign immigrant myself, I am truly, truly worried. And I give my full support to the Spanish citizens, to the whole Spanish society, because this needs to be stopped no matter what, and we have to be able to do it. To manage to reverse this process, even though it's difficult, but well, we have to try, right?
It's a slow motion coup d'etat, and I don't see public officials really putting up a proper barrier to stop it, and they've woken up too late. Well, let civil society put its foot down. Gabriel Araujo, I'll let you get to work.
All right, thank you very much. Greetings. See you soon. Castillon Confidential by Albert.
Castillón Confidencial, de Albert Castillón.
We're waiting for you at the House of Sparkling Water, Vichy Catalan.
And I ask you to keep subscribing and watching videos on our new channel, Your Body Knows 2.0. You know it's part of the family. The kids in our family are behind it, and they need support like everyone does when they're starting out, right? Give them a hand. Plus, you'll have a good time and learn a lot about your own body. Check out the contest. It's already open. You guys, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of How Much Do You Know About Your Body? As always, you will face 10 questions divided into 3 levels of difficulty: easy, medium, and hard. But today we have a very special edition. Today we won't be testing how much you know. Today, you'll find out how many myths about the human body you've believed your whole life. Will you be able to tell reality from fiction? Let's find out. Let's begin. What really happens if you swallow gum? A. It stays in your stomach for 7 years. B. It gets stuck to your intestine. C. Normally, it passes through the digestive system and is eliminated like other foods that are not digested. You have 5 seconds to answer.
Let's see. Stop. Everyone think about what the right answer is. Because when it comes to swallowing gum, I've heard all kinds of things, all kinds. This is like people who release a balloon into the air and say, I'm sure it'll reach the moon. Well, go to the channel and you'll see what the answer is, and check your ranking. It's learning while having fun. Your Body Knows 2.0. And if you have any questions, just ask us for the link and we'll send it to you. And if you'll allow me, today marks 1 year since David Lafoz passed away. He decided to leave up to a point because he was pushed to leave this world at 27 years old, right? A farmer, activist in Belviche, defending the land he belonged to and wanted to work on since he was 15 years old. When all his companions were going to the city and looking for a future, he wanted to stay and defend working the land, and he was one of the first to take care of it. He was also one of the first who went to Valencia to remove mud. He is still remembered with his tractor on the streets of Cataroja, removing mud after the flood. He became important within the movement to defend the land. He participated in demonstrations, and that put him in the spotlight. This is extremely dangerous. Someday we have to talk about it, about when they put you in the spotlight and come after you. Look, they've done it. They did it to me, but I was already 40 or 50 years old. If they had done to me what they've done to David Lafoz when I was 20, I don't know how I would have reacted, you know? Your personality isn't fully formed yet. They destroyed him. Tax inspections, fines, penalties. He lost the CAP subsidies, the Common Agricultural Policy support, institutional harassment. Then the police accused him of abuse, of pushing. I mean, they were even asking for jail time. So much pressure was what led him to take his own life. Today, it's been a year. Take a look at this preview of a beautiful documentary made by Dahlia Films. That is Jose Luis Rancaño, the...
All I have left is the pain of losing him. Signing your son's inheritance papers, it's very sad. He saw that farming no longer had a future, and he came under such pressure that led him to do what he did.
Farmers and ranchers are going to disappear. We will all regret it, and well, then there will be no turning back. There will be no turning back.
He is a role model for us. They put him under so much pressure that he couldn't
See any other way out than what he did?
Why the hell didn't you ask David for help if you needed it? Because of the passing, that word makes me feel dragged down.
It should never have happened.
David también fue un ejemplo de solidaridad.
Anything I do causes me a lot of pain.
The documentary is called Así David Lafoz. And right now you can already watch it. Jose Luis Rancaño, welcome.
How are you, Albert? Delighted to be here with you and all your insiders. The documentary is available to the public on YouTube. You can search for David Foss on YouTube or go to the YouTube channel of La Dalia Fins, or I suppose you'll also provide the link. But we've decided that this documentary needs to go completely viral, and the best platform for that is YouTube. If you allow me, Albert, I'd like to say that David Foss could easily be the son of any one of us. In fact, he has the same name as my son, David. As you mentioned, he was a young man in his early 20s, committed to rural life, to the countryside, to its traditions, to the way of life his parents had taught him. This documentary is a sincere and respectful tribute to David Lafoz, to his family, and to all his friends. I would especially like to highlight his father, Javier Lafoz, for his unconditional love for his son and for the strength and resilience he has. You said that David Lafoz was pressured until he took his own life. David Lafoz was very young. I still don't understand. He hadn't even reached maturity yet, and he was persecuted because of his commitment. He was persecuted for believing that people have the right to express, to manifest our political opinions, to stand up for what we believe in. And we live in a state, we live in a society where, as you said, that is often penalized. But besides being a tribute to David Foss, this documentary, in my view, is a complete tribute. How shall I put it? Enthusiastic. For all our fellow countrymen, farmers, ranchers, for all the people who go out to make a living at sea, who daily defend or fight for their livelihood and for ours, and who defend their traditions and their way of life. And also, and I'm adding this now, it's a documentary that wants to take a state and put a spotlight on this cowardly society, this society that forgets the important things, that forgets its fellow countrymen, that forgets the people who are suffering the most, the sectors that are having the hardest time. And one of those sectors is the primary sector, which has my full support and my full cooperation. I thank you, Albert, for promoting this documentary by David Foss. Of course.
And the link is posted on our website, castillonconfidential.com. We will share it on all our social networks. The link will be posted in the description of today's video. You can also see it there, so it's very easy, so you don't have to go looking for it. Let's see if we can do it. In the end, you make documentaries about what you feel called to make. And I really like that. You only think about doing good, about bringing a reality to light. Look at how many TV stations there are in this country, but none of them show it. Only Dalia Films and Rancaño do. Congratulations, because that sensitivity is what will make us better. I have no doubt about it. I have no doubt.
It's not just me, Albert. It's my whole team. It's you. It's all the confidenciales. I believe there's an important part of this society that knows what matters, that knows why it's worth living and getting up every day. And we have to start. It's just that they don't give us a voice, Albert. They've silenced us. They've turned off our microphones. They've lowered the cameras. Do you remember what they did during the flood? The TV stations would come and lower the cameras, right? Well, I'm going to focus on raising the cameras and turning on the microphone. I don't know how far we'll get, but that's the editorial line of Dalia, and that's the path we'll continue on.
You know what we should call this show? The shutdown or the canceled. Because here, name one of our panelists. Look, you guys are really good at analyzing current events. Name one who's on a major TV channel. Not a single one, not one. But here you have hundreds of thousands of followers. My dear Tabache, how are you, my friend?
Hello, my warriors of light, lovers of freedom. My dear Albert Jose Luis, it's a pleasure to be with you and with all the insiders. Let me say something else about what you were saying. I was listening carefully. The work you are doing, Jose Luis, is very important, not only for the people of today, but for future generations, of course. Because this has something to do with censorship, doesn't it? The censorship that they impose on all of us who raise our voices, who embrace the ideas of freedom. So what happens? They censor us, but there's always a brave person like Jose Luis who keeps stepping up. And it's so important to tell the true story and for the new generations to understand the symbols and the sacrifices of so many people. This is really a task. I know it's titanic, but so necessary. I'm sending you a hug, Jose Luis, and I also want to tell you that, well, you can count on my social media with any support I can offer.
We are Pero Asabache, Albert. It's no great achievement. I follow the path of my ideas, of what I think, and I say it sincerely. It's not a great achievement because at my age I already know what's important. By the way, let me clarify, Albert, we won't be on any of those TV channels you called important. What do you mean we won't? We collaborate on the most important Spanish-speaking channel, which is Albert Castillon's channel. Do you think that's not much?
Yes, well. I'm very proud that you're doing it. Me, my dear Azabache, I have messages from Venezuela because I don't, just like you. Just like we don't forget the Adamus train accident or the Valencia flood, I don't forget the earthquake in Venezuela. Yesterday, Castro Ocando was here. Do you know him? No? The investigative journalist, an excellent journalist. He told us 1,000 stories, for example, that something terrible is still happening, and that is that there are people who are alive, folks who are still alive and haven't been rescued. In fact, a Venezuelan woman from La Guaira told us that there are still guarded buildings that they won't let anyone enter. Listen.
There are many buildings that are guarded where they don't even let a single person in, not even someone who wants to help get something out, because these people have their things hidden, their money, their gold, all sorts of things.
Castro Ocando told us about it yesterday. There are reports from relatives or neighbors of buildings that they knew that if not Ocando,
it was suspected, or they thought, according to the security deployment around those buildings, that there was something. Castro Ocando told us about it. They didn't want that yesterday. Will they find that money because it was the key piece of evidence? No, at least not publicly. And this has been very unfortunate because indeed I think that has happened. Many people died because the regime prevented them from being rescued in order to preserve that evidence from those stashes that, by the way, could still be under the rubble.
In the raid, and it was to collect gold bars, gold or money or whatever they had there, but not because I actually produced it. They died because of the regime. To be rescued, bad person, to go preserve evidence, Sabache, hearing cries for help, grabbing the cash, right? No para ayudar a la gente. Hay que ser. The people to go there to Sabache, hear cries for help, grab the cash and leave. Unfortunate, by the way.
And they are human trash, my dear Albert, my dear Jose Luis and Confidential. We are talking about criminals, and that's what they've done all these years. I mean, what we're seeing is a tragedy on top of another tragedy. The tragedy of the earthquake, which is natural, what it did was lift that curtain to show the filth, the rot of what we Venezuelans have lived through for years. Tell me, what can you expect from criminals who violate human rights? They commit crimes against humanity, torture, they take the loot and forget about the citizens if they've done it on purpose. This is not a matter of mistakes. This has been done deliberately and systematically. Look, when you analyze Venezuela and see the points that the UN says constitute genocide, Venezuela meets all of those and more. So here it's a tragedy on top of a tragedy, and those in power are criminals. That's why I emphasize so strongly that we have to remove eradicate, dismantle that criminal organization if we truly want freedom. We're discussing human lives and how in Venezuela time is measured by lost lives, Albert.
Also, Azabache Albert, we've said it so many times, they've eliminated all the institutions in a narco state. Political institutions don't exist. They've been hollowed out. They've been replaced by behaviors typical of criminals, of mafia structures that are exclusively dedicated to committing crimes. A clear example has been the so-called Bolivian army. None of those so-called soldiers has the nobility to call himself a soldier. A soldier is there to defend his homeland and his fellow countrymen, to give his life when he has to defend his fellow countrymen. They have removed the country's political institutions and replaced them with other things. Azabache is absolutely right. That's why a change, a cosmetic touch-up, or a reshuffling of the top figures or the political leaders is not enough. All the institutions need to be removed. We have to go in with a bulldozer and clear away all the rot they've created and built over so many years.
I hope we achieve it because there's also complicity from much of civil society and much of the opposition. And the proof is that they have to call us, even though we're in Spain and still reaching Venezuela to ask for help. It's not normal. It should be the free Venezuelan press. There's very little, and what exists is almost protected, hidden. For example, Cristina Margarita Ramos's daughter writes to me and sends me videos. What happened, she explains.
I'm Krisnel Mara, the daughter of the lady who went viral because of the pretty nails video.
We're going to take her out now, sir. Me? Trust us. No, it's just that you're beautiful and I love your nails.
The rescuers transported her and say they took her to the Katia Lamar Naval Medical Center. From there, we haven't been able to determine her whereabouts because she doesn't appear on the lists. Because there's also no record of whoever transported her in the ambulance. I would appreciate it if anyone who has seen her or treated her would let us know through this channel. We have left a contact phone number there.
Cristina Ramos Rodriguez with identity card number 4,120,894. Can anyone tell us anything about where that woman who survived is? Please let us know. Oda Iris is the mother of a former political prisoner.
Good morning. How are you, Albert? This is Iris Espinosa speaking, mother of a former political prisoner. I want to invite you to help us raise awareness about the cases of the families of political prisoners and, well, about the whole situation that's happening in our country. God bless you, and here we are, brothers and sisters, with our hearts broken by everything that has happened in our country. It has been such a hard, horrible thing.
This space is yours and you already know it. Whatever we can do, we will do. And then there are a lot of rumors that Maria Corina is going to arrive. They have put patrols on the coast so she can't set foot there, so she can't go to La Guaira because it would be wonderful for Venezuelans to see her, a dream. It may have been better or worse, but now they need good news. But not everyone believes that Maria Corina is surrounded by good people. Thank you.
Maria Corina is surrounded by nothing but sharks, by nothing but traitors, even among her own people. It pains me to say it, but it's true. I can't believe that I'm just a trusted staff member. I feel like the valet de chambre of the court, the one who's always watching to make sure no one hurts him or anything. Well, in my world of princes and princesses and everything else, of castles and Castillon Confidencial, I feel like I'm one of the few people who truly, wholeheartedly, and without any self-interest fights for freedom, really.
This woman, like all the others, let's leave the name aside, works for Maria Corina in her party from Caracas. And she tells us that she's seeing it, that she's surrounded by traitors, that she should be careful.
By traitors and by Chavistas, Albert. I mean, here we're going to speak the truth, and that's the truth. Unfortunately, forgive me because I have a perspective and I want to share it with the insiders, and this is a personal opinion. There are two spheres. If Maria Corina enters Venezuela with Trump's approval to take power, reinstitutionalize the country, restore order and lead it to a democracy, rebuild it, and then hold an election, we're talking about me giving myself a standing ovation. Now, if Maria Corina enters Venezuela just to calm things down, like the Venezuelan political opposition has always done, to calm people, to tell them let's hold elections, and that's how we'll get rid of the criminal organization. Here we're talking about a person who will end up being useful and legitimizing a criminal organization that is not a political organization. So here, I'm paying very close attention, and I have to say it really bothers me to see how Venezuelans are being used by the American Democrats to throw stones at Trump. I'm not defending Trump because there are many things I can criticize, but the only person who can help us right now to get rid of those criminals is Trump. So everyone, we Venezuelans need to be clear that we have an opportunity to get out of this situation. It's been a 27-year nightmare. We can't allow ourselves to fall for media narratives that are just throwing stones at the person who can help us. I'm really, truly worried about this. I'm with my people in this tragedy, and you can also see it on my social media. I'm sharing a lot of information. Here, we're talking about human trafficking. Here, everyone's talking about cocaine everywhere. Here, they're talking about gold. Here, they're talking about criminals, loot. These people need to get out now, my dear Albert. That's what I think, and I respect all opinions. But Jose Luis as well.
Right? Yes, of course.
I think that the Cuban case and the Venezuelan case, personally, I think are some of the episodes that make me feel the most ashamed as a human being. Because for years, the entire international left, without exception from any country, has protected these regimes. But they've gone further. They've actively collaborated with these regimes from within democracies. They've maintained business ties and companies that should have been shut down for reputational reasons because of the damage to their image. They've collaborated with tyrants who kept their people enslaved. That area of collaboration, that complicity we've been dragging along for so many years is what makes most states and countries stay silent like real, I'm going to say a bad word, that they're silent, that they're silencing what they want. What happens in Venezuela and Cuba. I share Azabachi's opinion. A cosmetic change is not enough. An agreement can be reached. A solution with the guys who are in power in Cuba and Venezuela, they need to be immediately removed from power. And I honestly think, I don't know how, that the people have to build their own response. If there isn't a commitment, an active participation from the Cuban and Venezuelan people, the process will be stolen from them once again. Also, don't let yourselves be deceived. Don't let yourselves be deceived. Asabachi is absolutely right in what he says. Thank you.
Look, here's an example of what Rancaño is saying. Right now, the NATO summit in Turkey has just ended. Here's the detail about Sanchez. When he was coming down the stairs, they were waiting for him with 2 bouquets of flowers, but they didn't know that his wife had her passport taken away for multiple offenses. The joke, the silly comment, all right? Erdogan has imprisoned 151 journalists in recent years. He has imprisoned more journalists than China, Egypt, or Syria. He's a first-rate dictator. And there they all are, hugging, eating together, starting with Donald Trump. And Sanchez doesn't stay out of it either. I mean, here, and when I investigated why so many journalists have been imprisoned, well, I'm afraid to say it, because maybe Sanchez gets the idea, for example, for publishing misleading information. This is decided by the government for committing acts against the state. Who knows what that means? Or for insulting the president. We're halfway there, Rancaño, Azabache, and myself. We'd be in jail if we went to Turkey to do this show, right? We'd last 2 days. I mean, here we whitewash whoever we want, right? And you've seen the footage, Rancaño, of the FIFA president with Donald Trump taking away the red card, or now with Morocco. He just met with the boss, the president of the Moroccan Football Federation. They're already negotiating for the 2030 World Cup final to be in Casablanca, in this huge stadium in Casablanca. They say Casablanca has the biggest stadium in the world and that Spain is partly paying for it, as you can imagine. It's all false. Everything is fixed.
You mentioned NATO and the institutions. NATO is a defensive institution that originated to defend freedom and democracy against the communist expansionism of the Soviet Union. That is, it is an organization that was created to defend us, free people, democratic nations, to defend us from communism. All institutions have been corrupted in recent years. They have lost their essence. International organizations are worthless. I have an opinion, it's very personal, but I wish that the great nations, the free nations, were interventionists. They should be interventionists. They should intervene. Wherever human rights are violated and where people's rights and freedom are put in danger. But we're living in bad times, yeah. We're living in times where the left and right dynamic is changing. It's turning into a dynamic like the Hunger Games, of the elite and those outside the elite, those who live off this crappy system and those of us who suffer because of the system. And it has a lot to do with the loss of traditions and the power of the great European nations. France doesn't exist, Germany doesn't exist, Italy doesn't exist, we don't exist anymore. Us. It's not that the countries have evaporated, they've disappeared like sugar cubes. The strength that tradition, history, the weight, the achievements of these nations that made our European civilization great no longer exists. We're dealing with something else now and we're fighting it, fighting. The idea.
There's a message, I identified with it. I'm sure that for Zabache, just like for me, a message that Gile sends me is a person holding up a sign at a rally. And the sign says, if things go bad for you, you're alone. Now, if things go well for you, at least in Spain, the tax office is your 50% partner, and that's exactly how it is, right, Sabache?
Yes, totally, because I'm going to Jose Luis's point, because they have everything hijacked. If you don't align yourself, you're out, and being out really means, as the sign says, you're alone and unprotected, because on top of that, the full weight of that criminal state can come down on you. You have no way to defend yourself, and I connect this to the international organizations we've discussed several times on the show. Most of them were created by the left. They receive funding from non-democratic regimes, and allies of tyrants, autocrats, and dictators also have a voice and a vote. We are alone in the world, the people who think freely, and this is a reality that needs to change. And how do we change it? By bringing together all those free-thinking people. I don't underestimate human intelligence at all, and creating organizations and bodies that actually work for the free world. Otherwise, we're unprotected. That's the truth.
And besides, this idea, this deceptive idea of international law, which draws from multiculturalism, but who told us that all countries can sit at the same table and under the same conditions? But what is the rule? But why does a free democratic country that respects rights and cares about its citizens have to share a table with dictators, tyrants, and murderers, no matter what culture they are from, no matter what religion they have? This international law has done a lot of harm in recent times. It's true, I also support Asabache's theory that it has been corrupted or influenced by ideas from the new left, from the 20th and 21st century left, who realized they had lost the political battle at the state level with major regimes and instead bet on colonizing institutions.
Look, I want to introduce you to a confidential source who wrote to me on the show's phone line and will be left without a home in a few days. Her name is Anna. She's currently in Barcelona, living in a commercial space. She says, we live, my husband and I, by the way, he needs back surgery and he's not well. And it's the two of us with 4 pets. She sent me a photo, 2 dogs and 2 cats. I've been waiting for 5 years, waiting for public housing. And now they tell me not yet, that I should wait 5 more years. Between the two of us, we earn less than 700 euros a month and we don't receive any help from social services. I was born and raised in Barcelona, and now I look at it with deep sadness because of the poverty and crime there. They also want to take my pets away from me because, of course, they don't care about where you're going to live, but they do take your dogs and cats away and send them to a shelter. Not for humans, but for animals. Yes, it's terrible. Ana tells me that if there's anyone in Barcelona or nearby who has a place available, she's willing to pay up to 350 a month, whatever she can. I mean, more than half of the 700 they earn. This is a call for help in case someone has an empty place or maybe a country house to take care of, a farm, whatever you see fit. If anyone can, I know what I'm asking is crazy because asking for a place to live, a roof over your head for that amount of money in Barcelona or nearby, with that money you can't even get a parking spot. But what we're asking for isn't normal. It's actually what the authorities should be doing, and they're not. So if anyone can, I'm putting the idea out there. And if anyone can give us an option, let them do it. I'm embarrassed that any immigrant who arrives now, besides having a passport and citizenship, a couple will be receiving at least 1,500 euros. And if they have 2 children, it goes up to 2,300. Can someone explain to me why this Spanish couple from Barcelona is getting only 700? There's a double standard here, Rancaño. Something is wrong from the start. And if you complain, you're a racist too, you know?
Yes, and I also hear this very often. I'm a citizen of the world. Every time I hear these people who say they're citizens of the world, well, I'm not. I'm Spanish. I'm not a citizen of the world. I'm a Spanish citizen. What do I mean by this? Well, I try to put into practice what my parents and grandparents taught me. Who do you help? Your children, your relatives, your friends. Your neighbors, the first ones, the ones you have to help. That is the concept of national priority that I defend and that I believe is completely respectable. You have to help those who are closest to you, who share life with you, your emotions, your needs, your vision for the country, your community. And then if we have energy and strength left, we'll help the rest of the world, because I'm not a citizen of the world, I'm a Spanish citizen. This international solidarity, this thing about looking at big causes when you don't have them close by, worrying about the well-being of animals, rivers, plants, but not taking into account that your neighbor is going hungry or that the woman across the street doesn't have anything to keep herself warm at night. I think that's what real scumbags do. This society is sick. We need to change it. We need to return to tradition. We need to go back to common sense, things that our fathers, our grandfathers, our ancestors used to do. It's
very serious.
It's difficult. It's difficult because they don't want free citizens. Yeah, they don't want strong groups of citizens, Albert. Yeah, but when you see,
if the state abandons you, only civil society can help you. Come on, I think Azabachi and I have been at the top and at the bottom, and we've managed to rise again several times, haven't we, Azabachi?
Like the phoenix, my dear Alvaro. Like the phoenix. That really doesn't sit right with me. And it's this thing about all these causes different governments keep pushing. Like Jose Luis says, in the end, it's always us who end up footing the bill because that money belongs to the people who work in each country. These causes are bogus because at the end of the day, absolutely nothing happens because of those flags environmentalists. That's just smoke and mirrors. Meanwhile, the people in these countries are struggling. This is really terrible.
I'm going to give you an example, Azabachi, and tell me, because if it were April Fool's Day, you'd think it's a joke. Hold on, are you sitting down? The Bank of Spain has spent 943,000 euros on massages and Pilates classes for its employees. 1 million pesetas over 5 years on massages and Pilates classes. In addition, they're going to renovate the summer residences because the executives have houses where they go in the summer practically for free to vacation at beach destinations. And they've also expanded the car leasing program.
Luxury ones?
Of course, the executives can't take a taxi. They have to travel in a luxury car with a chauffeur. We pay for all of that. Massages, Pilates classes. Then they say that tax money goes to healthcare, to education, to schools. No. Pilates and massages for the employees of the Bank of Spain. Is it time to call it quits and walk away or not, Rancaño?
Of course, it's the state, and I always ask myself, who is this? Who is the state? Where is the state? Because I know my upstairs neighbor, the neighbor next door, my coworker, but who is the state? The ones you're mentioning are the state. This is the serious problem we are facing today. And those people who work in state organizations in good faith, with a good heart, doing an essential job, as I always say. Police officers, soldiers, firefighters, nurses, teachers, they should go out every day to protest for the dignity of their profession and for the dignity of those who pay their salaries. Do you know what happens, Albert? What you just said should be a crime. That should be a crime. Spending €1 million of money that isn't yours, which is like throwing money out the window when that money is badly needed, is a way of committing a crime. I mean, I don't know if it can be classified or should be classified as misconduct. I don't know how it should be classified.
But hey, they're very progressive, Azabachi. They're really left-wing too.
High progesterone in their blood, and they don't take the 3 Libertaron pills like we always say. But here's a huge point, because the state doesn't produce wealth, folks. And there are a lot of people who don't understand this, and it needs to be said, and we have to teach and somehow convey to people that the states in different countries are sustained by us, by our work, by our effort. So they take from those who work from the productive sector of each country for their own interests. The politicians live off of us. That's why it's so important for people to get involved. In what sense? In demanding, in being vigilant, demanding. And if you ask me, how should this be classified? For me, it's a crime against humanity to use people's hard-earned money for themselves, massages and everything else, while hospitals, right? For example, in the case of Venezuela, there's a lack of oxygen, where, for instance, the rail system in Spain isn't maintained, and a lot of other things. So for me, this is a crime against humanity.
You are an actress and an artist. Yes, thank you. The government has launched a clothing line called Democracy. Yesterday, we introduced it. This clothing line that you're seeing, very street, very modern clothing, promoted by influencers, is not going to be sold in stores. What they want is to give it away on social networks. That is to say, to make propaganda, to say, put on the clothes that say democracy and you are one of mine, you are with Sanchez. It has caused a message. Do you know how much they have spent on this?
Tonteria?
15 million euros. No, 15 million. Let's hear from Juan and Silvia.
The Moncloa has launched a clothing line, so why don't we launch another clothing line from paid, with our own money, not with the Spaniards' money, with ours, from those of us who want to, on which it says democracy, 50 years of slavery and poverty.
This clothing line, it just seems unbelievable. Meanwhile, there are ALS patients dying, that there are people in Valencia with garages that haven't been repaired, that there are people in La Palma living under containers, that there are people waiting in line at public hospitals. It's shameless to spend our money on creating a clothing line that nobody cares about, that nobody gives a damn about.
There is no budget.
But for this?
But for this, yes, there is money.
Let me make a joke. A friend called me, he sent me a picture, and he said, before I put on the government's clothes, I'll go naked down the street. I'm telling you, Albert, this is embezzlement. These are examples of embezzlement of public funds. And why is it possible? Zabache explained it very well before. Because we have a weak society. We have a civil society with little commitment. We have a political structure with limited oversight tools. If immediately after a law like this, or a decision like the one taken by the Bank of Spain, civil associations would file lawsuits in the courts, they would appear at the doors of the Bank of Spain, they would threaten to withdraw funds from all financial entities working with these organizations. That is, if they took active measures, the joke would be on these guys. This is embezzlement, 14 million. With 14 million, we can treat 1 million people, half of Spain sick. With 14 million, we have to support 10,000 Venezuelan families. Without 1 million, we have to 10,000 Venezuelans with, and they give the campaign to multimillionaire influencers, multimillionaires. That is, they are the best example of capitalism to promote this stupidity. Well, calling it stupidity is putting it mildly. This is an act of embezzlement because this is embezzlement of public funds.
Disguised as management?
Disguised as management. The state always disguises it as management. Of course, it was Fortunato, right? Management. No, this isn't managing. This is embezzling.
Did Maduro dare to create a clothing line or not?
Look, you left me with let's see.
I don't think so.
Narcolas and Masburo have dolls, they have comics, it wouldn't surprise me. Yes.
What are you saying? Dolls?
Yes, dolls. And also comic videos like Super Bigote. No, that's what we're talking about. Honestly, Albert, I wouldn't be surprised. That's how these people are, especially when it's other people's money. We're back to the same thing. Here we're talking about these people being criminals. When they steal people's money to do these things, it's a crime. That's a crime. They're not politicians, they're criminals.
Absolutely.
And notice the difference. Look, in the private sector, in the private economy, when you go somewhere and they give you bad service, overcharge you, or you think the service isn't worth the price, you don't go back. You complain. You say they treated me badly. There's competition. These guys who call themselves the state, those who currently occupy the state institutions, we have to leave them as little room to maneuver as possible. We have to let them manage only what's absolutely necessary. Everything that can be managed by free people, peacefully exchanging goods and services, is welcome. These guys can't touch other people's money because they squander it, they spend it, they throw it away. I don't know if this has happened to you, Albert, but when I'm driving and I see those stupid roundabouts they've built all over Spain, I just think, look at that. And this way of wasting money in each of these towns. Couldn't there be something more worthwhile? For example, caring about their farmers and ranchers, caring about their land, about the rural people who are leaving the countryside. It's just that, what's wrong with you?
We're listening. Yes, tell me, dear.
No, I just remembered that Chavez made some sneakers. So this is the same script.
Please, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
It's the same. They're identical. It's outrageous. Well, and get ready because yesterday Begoña Gomez traveled to London. The judge returned her passport, but she has to come back on Friday. That is tomorrow. If she doesn't come back tomorrow from her daughter's supposed graduation, we'll have to start looking for Begoña Gomez. Juan Amador talks about the preferential treatment Begoña has been given. Amador, Sixto, Sofia, and Maria.
The substitute judge for this one has really outdone himself. They are united in wrongdoing with the United Kingdom. If now, from the United Kingdom, she takes a plane to the Dominican Republic, the Bobbies are going to detain her. She doesn't have any arrest warrant.
Begoña Gomez is an alleged criminal. She is under investigation for crimes that could carry up to 20 years in prison. If I were Begoña and I were a regular person, the judge wouldn't let me keep my passport to even go to Portugal.
What vehicle is she going to use? The wife of the tyrant government we have is going to see her daughter to England. What vehicle? Is she going to pay for it, or are we all going to pay for it like always?
Well, I wanted to say to Bolaños, servile and kneeling before Sanchismo, also known as Transi, that he lies as much as his boss. The majority of the Spanish people want to see Begoña Gomez indicted 5 times in jail.
No one talks about dual citizenship because not all countries accept dual citizenships. I don't know, I don't hear anyone talking about this, and I think it's very important.
That's true, Maria. And for you, Asabache, Justa has sent you a video. She says, please let her hear it, Asabache, because we learn from her. Listen.
I have to tell you something. I feel bad. I need a Playacetamol with a Vino Profeno, along with a Tequila Flenaco and a beer Cervezo Messina.
And I mean for all of them. I mean for all the ones she mentioned.
I'll do it. I'll do the whole treatment. I love it.
Hey, let me respond to what you just said.
Created from school, what you have
mentioned before about Begoña Gomez, I wanted to highlight the paradox. Let's see, there are self-proclaimed champions of the left and public education, and they have one of their daughters in one of the most expensive private schools abroad, and the other in a Catholic school, also private. But really, the people who vote for them aren't aware that they're liars. That they don't believe in anything at all, nothing they preach or say. Where is the commitment to public education that they claim to have in everything else? Or like, well, of course, it's going to be what I think. People have to travel, they have to travel on cheap flights, but they travel in business class.
Look, Begoña Gomez studied at a private academy. Sanchez studied at Santa Cristina School in Madrid, which is private. At the Ramiro de Maeztu Institute, private. At the Royal University Center, Maria Cristina, the most expensive in Madrid, private. And at Camilo Jose Cela University, private. And his daughters study at schools, as you said, private, extremely expensive. The one from the graduation doesn't cost less than $27,000 a year. By the way, with the salary he has, Sanchez can't afford it. He'll have to tell us if it's from his father-in-law's saunas or from other places. And despite that, what does Sanchez say about private universities?
Today we stand with public higher education with the same conviction with which we want to fight the rise of private centers that, without rigor and without scruples, prioritize business over quality. Those diploma mills that do not meet the standards we should demand from our higher education, damaging the entire system.
I think you're right, Begoña. They're diploma mills because they've turned out scum like him, right? Otherwise, you tell me.
But they don't use public education. They don't use public education.
No, and public education, I don't know how it is in Spain, but in our region, it's an everyday thing. They're indoctrination centers. No, it's not even education that helps people think for themselves or awakens critical thinking. No, it's all indoctrination. Honestly, I have a theory that the moment politicians are legally required to use public services and to make their children study in, in public places, oh, I forgot the word, in schools and in hospitals, and to get treated in public hospitals, we would see things change here. Because the truth is that these people live like kings and make fun of all the citizens. They think we're stupid. That's the truth.
Totally. About the government, Karin from London, Juan Bernabe Pilar, and Fernando.
What the left is doing is making Spaniards turn against each other. That miserable left.
The parliament told Sanchez the other day to leave, and then Sanchez laughed at the parliament and at the supposedly democratic representatives. For me, the parliament has put itself on the same level as the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party PSOE, doing Sanchez a favor. Because if what the parliament wants is to get rid of Sanchez and the PSOE party, what they should have done is a vote of no confidence, which is precisely what they are not going to do.
When the highest levels of power and money have been surpassed, and yet there are still blind loyalties. Does that mean that those people who remain loyal have something even worse they're being blackmailed over? That's called compromat. We're talking about very dark and terrible things that neither money nor power can buy, but they involve human vileness and darkness. Thank you, video.
Pedro Sanchez, Bolaños, the laws, Begoña Gomez, all those problems, everything, the Correos affair, Oscar Puente, Adamut, it's all due to the electoral fraud that put him in La Moncloa. And not only in La Moncloa, because La Moncloa, as we know, is decided by the deputies. The deputies aren't there because we voted for them, but due to electoral engineering.
The person we have as Minister of Equality says that men apparently are a different species from women, that we are inferior. Applying her own code, I think this woman suffers from degenerative misandry in its terminal stage. And well, I don't know to what extent Article 15 of the Penal Code, the hate crime, could be applied to her.
I liked what Asabachi said, Fernando, the Minister of Equality, says, because it doesn't matter.
Equality.
Equality. Here we have a level of ministers who reported,
our ancestors were so intelligent. The Greeks already said it when they warned about the danger of so-called populist democracy. It's cheap populism taken to the extreme. Very cheap. There's an important difference between debating among intelligent people, contrasting ideas, points of view, programs, theses, and generating conflict. The conflict is created to stay in power. It doesn't require intelligent people. It requires indoctrinated people, people who aren't very free. And besides, we've taken so many shameful steps when seeing, look, I just saw a photograph of the fugitive Pigdemont receiving the Bildu member, the terrorist in Waterloo. And I say he's a terrorist because everyone who has committed terrorist acts is still a terrorist. And I look at the photo and I say, and this is paid for with public resources and the public funds of all Spaniards, including those of the families of the victims of the terrorist and criminal group ETA, including those of all those Catalans who unfortunately had to endure that scumbag Puigdemont for years in Catalonia. What happens that when this kind of indignity is normalized, when Spanish politicians normalize and institutionalize this as if nothing happened, then anything goes. We should have put a stop to this a long time ago. We should have put the brakes on this a long time ago in this sense, and we haven't done it. So it becomes a cascade. We're in free fall. We're going down the ravine with the bike out of control.
we need to wake up. How many years did it take Venezuela to open its eyes? And to say that's enough, how many?
It's still taking us time. Of course, I mean, it's been 27 years and we're not free. And there's still a lot of people being manipulated. That's why I strongly believe in the communications battle, the cultural battle, and the battle of ideas. The serious thing about Venezuela is that there's also a media blockade that needs to be broken. Because here we are talking, but in Venezuela, everything we're saying doesn't reach the masses. I'm talking about the masses of people who end up being kidnapped by these miserable criminals and being enslaved and manipulated for their purposes. And here in Venezuela, here, over there in Venezuela, in these 27 years, we've been trapped between a criminal tyranny pushing one narrative and also a fake opposition pushing another narrative. And the citizen in the middle suffering everything from a criminal tyranny that violates human rights, commits crimes against humanity, and carries out extrajudicial executions. And the situation continues. Albert, let's see. I don't know. We woke up, we understood a long time ago that we didn't have democracy. How did we realize that? Well, we voted and it didn't matter at all. We stopped voting to show the world that we were living under a tyranny. And that's how there were 34 cases of electoral malpractice in Venezuela. It's not the one from June 28th. That's the last one. But we've had 34 cases of electoral malpractice. The point is, and I'll finish with this, is that since Chavez took power, changed the constitution, changed the laws, that was the last democratic election we had. Only when Chavez came to power. After that, from then on, we later discovered with a lot of information, research, and everything else, that everything else was just a lie. Imagine that.
Also, Albert, Asabachi says something that I find very interesting. In the last 100 years, Venezuela has always been socialist with different labels, but it never stopped being socialist. It was Chavista socialist, communist socialist, social democratic, center-left socialist. But they've spent many years indoctrinating the population with ideas that are essentially bad. Yes, yes, yes. Bad for our fellow countrymen.
The proof is, how is it, right?
Allow me just to round this off, and so people know, from 1958 to today, all the governments in Venezuela have been left-wing. Social democracy, democratic socialism, and now the disastrous 21st century socialism, as Jose Luis says.
And what has it led to? A narco state.
Exactly.
Let those who keep voting for what they think is progressivism and the future learn from this. All right, if you'll allow me. Newsroom, Susana Gas, latest messages.
Here we are, Albert, in the Castellon Confidential newsroom, receiving messages and opinions from all our insiders. Many of them are on vacation and enjoying themselves, but even so, they still take a moment to comment. That's the case with Alfonso, who says the Moncloaca should no longer be the residence of the Prime Minister and should return to Castellana like it was before with Suarez. On the other hand, Antonio says that the dictatorship in Venezuela operates in the same way as in Spain with the DINA. They left us absolutely alone. Also, Ninumia says that she loves Carlos Marcos, who says that she really enjoys listening to you, Albert Castellon, because you bring nobility to truth, to the homeland, to honesty in a word. You have many brave confidential experts, Albert Castellon. Congratulations to you and your entire team. On the other hand, our friend Georgina says that it's a pleasure to see Castro Ocando on your show. I used to follow him during the elections, in the last elections in Venezuela where they won, Edmundo Gonzalez and Maria Corina Machado. He is an excellent journalist, and that great collaboration you have had, or that he has had with you on the show, is fundamental, very interesting. Ramon says that Azagra, obviously referring to Pedro Sanchez's brother, is playing the piano at the state event, from the PSOE mafias attacking and bribing judges to save criminals like Azagra, Gallardo, and all that gang of criminals. And above all, also the Provincial Council of Badajoz. And Diego says they want to reach young people. He is referring to the new clothing brand called Democracia, which is promoted by the executive itself, and he says that they are distancing themselves from the left. And in the middle of it all, with the clothing, they're not going to achieve anything at all, because that's just a waste of money that serves no purpose. What's going on in people's heads these days? Marisa says she wishes you a good vacation and hopes that this time you actually get a few days off because she thinks you deserve it. It's been a really tough year. You've kept us informed about absolutely everything. Come on, take a few days off. That's what I say. And we'll leave it here, Albert. Let's hope so. We'll leave it here. You can always follow us on all the channels we have, and obviously I won't get tired of repeating it, that digital newspaper, CastellonConfidential.com, which is, well, very successful, and above all, it's free. That's what's important, so you can take a look and above all, stay well informed. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There on CastellonConfidential.com is the link to go to YouTube and watch the documentary about David Lafoz that Jose Luis Rancaño released today, completely free of charge. And by the way, the interview you did with Susana Díaz Azabache the other day on Confesiones Confidenciales was magnificent. Go watch it because you shared some real gems. You did really well.
Susana brings out this sensitive and human side, and honestly, really thank you for that wonderful interview. Don't miss it because we talked about everything. It's really, really very, very moving. And a lot of truths are told there, a lot.
You can watch it on Confidential Confessions. I liked calling La Moncloa La Moncloaca. Keep that in mind, Rancaño. That's really good.
Look, Azabache, if you allow me, I'd like to send from here a very, very big hug, a sincere, affectionate hug to Javier Lafoz, David's father, who I suppose is having a really hard time today. And ask the confidentials, or maybe you've already done it, but I want to do it personally, to click on the YouTube link and watch the documentary about David Lafoz. Our farmers, ranchers, our people of the sea are in danger. They're at risk. And we must be aware that they need the support of their fellow countrymen. We have to defend them, and I ask you to make the documentary go viral because it's a tribute to David. But it's also a documentary that defends rural life, the primary sector, and the way of life, and about the traditions that we Spaniards have had for centuries and have taken to other parts of the world.
Congratulations on making it. A hug to Azabache, thank you. They can follow you on Azabache online, right?
That's right. Thank you, Albert, as always, for the opportunity. Thank you, Jose Luis, for not giving up and telling the story. It's very important that the new generations also know what's really happening. I love you all very much, Confidenciales. Long live freedom.
Dam, ole.
A hug. You should have gone to Turkey to the NATO summit, man, not the people who did. They're so boring. A hug, Rancaño. Take care. A hug.
See you later, Asabache.
All right, get ready because we're going to Coin in Malaga. Why? Because they're destroying the land with solar panels, and that's enough in a minute.
915-930-491, completely trustworthy.
Gentlemen, the photovoltaic projects, the big companies that are replacing olive trees with solar panels, just like they put wind turbines anywhere. They are under more than just suspicion after the Forestalia case revealed the bribes, threats, and the countless cases of corruption surrounding those companies and the governments. Especially Santos Cerdan and his circle, who were allegedly receiving kickbacks in exchange for concessions and much more. Now even CEPI, the company that has handed out the most money, is linked to Forestalia with bribes received in businesses connected to Santos Cerdan's circle. It seems like they filled us with wind turbines and solar panels, covering the land and all of Spain without thinking about ecology or energy. They did it in exchange for money, a huge amount of money. But, and remember, if you own land with fruit trees or olive trees and they want to put one of those installations there, by order of our politicians, your land will be expropriated. Plain and simple, your land will be expropriated. They give you what they consider compensation and turn your olive grove into a solar farm overnight. It's like a direct attack on Spanish society, on ecology, on our natural parks with the permission of the competent authority. There's a video I want you to watch. We're going to Malaga, specifically to Coin. Take a look at what they're doing.
In the very heart of La Jara, in Coin, there are centuries-old home oaks, eagles, foxes, turtles, wildlife protected by law. Today, the machines are destroying it. The Ministry for Ecological Transition and the Coin City Council have given the green light to several solar plants, bypassing environmental and urban planning regulations. Licenses that could be completely null and void, ignoring the objections of the residents and even without putting some of them out for public review. They clear land during the peak bird breeding season, move mountains of earth, and uproot large trees without even complying with the conditions of their own permits. Despite the complaints filed, no organization, not the ministry, nor the regional government, nor the city council, is monitoring the damage being caused in La Jara by the construction of these plants. This is not progress. It's an outrage against our land. We demand the immediate halt and removal of the equipment. Rise up for your land. Defend it.
Marisa Casal, welcome to the Valle Natural Rio Grande Association in Coin, Malaga. What we just saw is brutal, isn't it?
That's right, Albert. And they've already been working for months during a time of year when, according to their own environmental impact statements, these activities shouldn't be carried out from March to July. So everything we were told by the National Union of Photovoltaic Business Owners about good practices is being completely ignored.
But let's see, does the Junta of Andalusia or the City Council of Coin, which are run by the PP, agree with the Ministry of Ecological Transition, which is run by the PSOE? What's the common interest here?
Well, just to give people some context, we're right at the foot, so close that if you stretch out your arm, you can touch the national park, which also extends into a biosphere reserve, the Sierra de las Nieves in Malaga. Also, right next to the Rio Grande, which is one of the few rivers here that still remain natural, and we can't understand how the Ministry of Ecological Transition could have given the green light to these authorizations. From the Junta de Andalucia, where we have already filed complaints with both Miteco and the Junta de Andalucia, and also with the Coin City Council, and yet no one is taking action, no one is here supervising anything at all.
Years ago, Iberdrola, I was there and they tried to convince me that this is environmentally friendly. And they showed me videos of sheep grazing among solar panels, of how nothing happens, how it doesn't harm nature. You have shown that this creates what you call heat islands. What is that?
First, anyone who approaches one of these mega projects, which are industrial complexes in the countryside, what happens is that euphemistic vocabulary is also used to call them solar farms, which they are not. You'll see that there are signs at the entrance that say forbidden, or rather danger due to high temperatures. That's just to start with. But just a few days ago, CSI, the Italian equivalent of the CSIC, they released a study showing that the temperature under the panels in the field after settling and compacting all that land goes up by as much as 17 degrees.
But if we're at 40 or 43 degrees, we're talking about nothing being able to survive there, right? With 60 degrees or close to 60.
Albert, but not even the panels. It's well known that panels don't like heat. What doesn't make sense is that these installations are being made when there are already degraded and built up areas where they could be installed. And now we also have the problem that nothing can enter the electrical grid because everything is occupied by these large investment funds that bought all the nodes at auction years ago.
They keep expropriating even if the landowner doesn't want it.
Yes, we have spent 9 days supporting the neighbors who opposed the expropriation of their land, submitting documentation, and, well, facing all kinds of obstacles from the administration to do so.
In Jaén, for example, they managed to stop a good part of the panels. There in Coim, why not?
Well, we're all still fighting. In fact, we're currently in litigation in Madrid. We want a judge to decide if this is normal for this kind of destruction to happen. Also, in an area that has traditionally been called the Granary of Malaga, because then you have very eco-friendly people who later bring in organic flour, and you look at the origin of the grain and it says China. The same goes for solar panels. There are still things people aren't informed about, but the European Union recently released something new. It's a concern because all these solar installations, since they come from China with chips, there's worry that our own production could be turned off and on from there.
Yes, that's been proven. That is, all Chinese equipment ends up being controlled by a Chinese company that belongs to the Communist Party government. So we're basically letting the enemy in, and if they decide to cause a massive blackout, they just press a button in Beijing and make it happen, right? It's incredible. You are united, that much I have seen. You are coming together more and more. We're not just talking about Coim. There are many municipalities that are united. Who defends you? Europe? Any party in Spain? Who defends you?
Well, here in particular, they've been helping us a lot from the very beginning. And it has to be said because of the pressure they get from these companies, which are investment funds. Most of them are also foreign, and then they resell them among themselves. We wanted to highlight, for example, the Alhóndiga City Council, the Monda City Council. They are part of the Association of Towns of the Sierra de las Nieves National Park. At the national level, we are all in contact on social networks because, like our association, there are hundreds all over Spain because this is repeated throughout Spain. We are seeing that the power grid can't take any more, it can't handle any more input, but all these mega projects keep moving forward without any reason, even though they're within the Natura 2000 network. I mean, we have this documented on our website on macro renewables, right? A multitude of mega projects that should never have even been proposed by the developers, nor presented to the Ecological Transition Ministry or to any autonomous community. We remind people that mega projects with more than 50 megawatts are processed through the Ministry of Ecological Transition, and those with less than 50 are processed through the autonomous communities. And that 1 megawatt more or less takes up about 0.2 hectares. So just imagine, multiply all this by thousands and thousands and thousands.
Well, now you have the opportunity to convince your government partner there in Andalusia If Vox puts on the pressure, maybe Moreno Bonilla will give in, just so we're clear, because so far he's followed the same policy as the Socialist Party, right?
Well, that's clear from the voting, and you just have to look at what's being voted on in Europe, because all of this comes from European directives and regulations, and it's very easy to see. The votes are what show us everything. And the representative of the Vox party in Andalusia, Manolo Gavira, has been in our area in the national park, physically present. And we hope that now that all the time they needed is over, they can help us. Because the only thing we're asking for right now is for someone to come and supervise what's happening, because they're tearing things out. Is the video footage of the destruction and the excavators shows. All of that is real. It belongs to the neighbors, and no one can believe that there's no one here. Not from the Andalusian regional government, the ministry, or the city council. From COEM, who doesn't even give us the information we've requested in writing on multiple occasions.
City council governed by the Partido Popular, please do your job. Well, that's the SOS we're sending out. It's done without oversight, without supervision. We believe it might be illegal, and someone should take action now. Marisa Casal, sending a hug to the people of the Rio Grande Natural Valley. We have to protect the Sierra de las Nieves National Park. It's a real treasure. It's a place. It's a place in the area. We can't even let anyone touch it. Let's see if we can make it happen. A big hug.
Albert, thanks for always being there.
Thank you, Sylvia, for giving us encouragement and strength.
Thank you once again for everything you are doing and for reporting with such freedom and courage that you deserve an award. They'll have to name a square after Albert Castellón when all this is over. In tribute to your courage, Albert. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No, you all are all the tribute I need every day. I don't need plaques. Well, Candelaria is in Germany and she doesn't watch TV either.
I haven't watched television for at least, 4 years. I spend more time on the internet and I listen to you. I watch Toro Te TV or Periodista Digital every day and so on. And here in Germany, all the alternative ones too.
Very good, intelligent people, awake people like Candelaria. We have to learn. Notice that there are a lot of young people who do watch TV and the news, and they believe that what they say there is true. Well, I've been there. I've been on the other side, on the dark side, and I know how they are. I'll leave it at that. Well, gentlemen, Angeline sent me this gag by Freud Lannister that I really love. Please watch it. Go ahead. It starts with Sanchez in Moncloa and Oscar Puente arrives at the office.
Me, Twitter. Adamus, blocked, fascists, judges, hate, goodbye.
Well, since these fascists won't let me go on vacation, I plan to spend EU funds on Serrano.
No, don't go so fast, Professor. I'm carrying a lot.
And then she said to me, Minister, well, this minister, I'm a PSOE voter.
Yolanda Diaz with Maria Jesus Montero.
Then the subway arrived since I usually take it, even though I was running in Retiro Park that day. And of course, the ice cream fell to the ground and the child was crying, and I told the Vox voter, this is your fault, fascist, because climate fascism melts ice cream. And then a lot of people showed up and I gave a speech, but it was already late, so I started ironing.
They're crazy and Sanchez is watching them.
Look at how bright that planet is, Pedro.
The brother.
Enough, for the love of my father-in-law's saunas. I've had enough. This place is crazy. I'm taking the Falcon for a ride. Paco, stop by Fio's again. I'll take photos for the tax office.
Pedro.
Pedro, I'm here, Pedro.
I'm with Begoña, and Chi Lopez is hanging onto the balcony railing.
What a bunch of idiots.
I swear on my saunas. I love that oath. I swear by my saunas. Well, gentlemen, the guys from the sauna district are absolutely amazing. Hector and a bunch of you sent me this. You can see Begoña Gomez picking up the phone and saying, Pedro, you're useless. I don't have a passport and you're giving them away by the thousands. Useless, it's true. It just so happens that the husband is giving them away. Millions of passports and his wife doesn't have one. Or this one Maria sent me where you can see Cristina Cifuentes. She says, what times those were when a politician resigned over stealing 2 creams worth 40 euros. Things really have changed, they have. Now it's 40 million, not 40 euros. And Abraham talking about Begonia's passport. Listen.
But the other day, they gave me this, which I didn't know what it was for, and it turns out I can go wherever I want. No.
Are you giving ideas, Abraham? Are you saying that Begonia might not come back on Friday? Let's not start. Let's not start. Let's keep the peace. Well, friends, and this image to finish, I think it's beautiful. Some of you have sent it to me, and it's the Juan Sebastián Elcano, the flagship of Spain. That's where our sailors learned to navigate, entering the Hudson River in New York. This was on July 4th when Independence Day was celebrated in the United States. Magnificent image. Now that's national pride and not Begonia Gomez strolling around under investigation and without a passport in London. Friends, I'll see you here in the trenches again tomorrow. Thank you for being there on the other side.
You know it and I know it, thank you. We're insiders, you're an insider, I'm an insider, all of us insiders, but only for open minds and for people who are awake. From the trenches the bullets whistle and there's no way to get out there. Here freedom has wings of wax. Albert Castillon, Susana Gas. Your girl Castellon and the rest, thank you very much. Thank you.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.